Hi guys, I'm here to tell you why death penalty is not the best punishment for criminals. Death penalty kills people, not crime. Over 150 people in the last few years have been taken off death row because they were innocent. Last year, roughly 14,000 murders were committed but only 35 executions took place. According to John J. Donaway III, professor of law at Stanford University, since murderers typically expose themselves to far greater immediate risk, the likelihood is incredibly remote that small chance of executions, many years after, will influence the behavior of sociopathic deviant who would otherwise be willing to kill if his or her penalty were life imprisonment. Death penalty is not the best punishment for criminals because it cannot decrease crime rates, because it is not righteous for the innocent, and because death penalty system is far more expensive than alternative system. Death penalty is not the best punishment for criminals because it cannot decrease crime rates. According to John J. Donaway III, professor of law at Stanford University, there is not the slightest credible statistical evidence that capital punishment reduces the rate of homicides. Whether one compares the similar movements of homicide in Canada and the US, when only the latter restored the death penalty, or in American states that have abolished it versus those that retain it, or in Hong Kong and Singapore, there is no detectable effect of death penalty. However, according to David Mulhausen, research fellow in empirical policy analysis in the Heritage Foundation, other recent investigation using a variety of samples and statistical methods consistently demonstrate a strong link between execution and reduced murder rate. In short, death penalty does, in fact, save lives. Death penalty should not be legalized because it is not righteous for the innocent. According to Ernie Chambers, Nebraska State Senator, over 150 people in the last few years in Nebraska State have been taken off death row because they were innocent. There are people who want to believe that no innocent person have ever been executed. But when you have this many people who conclusively prove by DNA evidence who actually innocent, there is no escaping the conclusion that no innocent person have been executed. However, according to Antonin Scalia, former Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, petitioners sentenced to die for the crime they committed come before this court, asking us to nullify their sentences, who is unusual under the Eighth Amendment. They rely on this provision because it is the only provision they can rely on. The penalty system is far more expensive than alternative system. According to Richard Dieter, former executive director of the Death Penalty Information Center, if the cost of death penalty were to be measured at the time of an execution, that indeed be true. But as every prosecutor, defense attorney, and judge knows, the cost of a capital case begin long before the sentence is carried out. However, according to Robert Ebnen, attorney and co-founder of Nebraskans for the death penalty, the existence of death penalty as a possible sentence leads to guilty pleas that save the money spent on trials and limit the opportunity. Sentence of capital punishment is an expensive, barbaric alternative for punishing a criminal. Where does the hostility and ignorance stop? Where it begins. Murder is unaccepted by society, yet people seems to pacify themselves by killing criminals. Is that not considered to be a murder? Sentencing a criminal to death does not solve the problems and questions that are left behind. Perhaps the most important factor whether a defendant will receive the death penalty is the quality of representation he or she provided. Death penalty kills people, not crime.